Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about the Ram TRX and I guess some beef I have with the truck that could have been fixed before this truck was released. Before we get into this though, as always, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. And with that being said, let's just hop right into the video. Okay, so first off, I have to give a lot of you tons of anxiety. I don't know how I managed to do this, but I have the truck, you guys can see, parked right next to this little thing that sticks out of the wall, and like it's not touching. Like there's no contact with the truck. I don't know how I did this. Like I backed it up one night and like did it perfectly well. And frankly, honestly, if I backed into this thing, it wouldn't be a big deal because the truck's wrapped, but like that's impressive. Now the next thing we got to do is of course move the truck out of the garage so I can take a good old thumbnail. Ooh, this truck sounds so good. I am going to be making an update on the selling of the TRX in the near future. That's not going to be in this video, but well, results may surprise you guys. Anyways, let's pull this thing out. Also, I need an oil change, I guess. Whoops. Now, before I mention my beef with the Ram TRX, I want you guys to guess in the comment section down below what it is going to be. And I'm going to give you guys a hint. It has nothing to do with the transmission. It seems like people are never going to let that whole first off-roading situation disappear anytime soon. But now that you guys have guessed, it has to pertain to the brakes with the truck. And here's the deal. If you own a TRX, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So you guys can see this truck is fitted with 18-inch wheels, which are amazing for off-road application because it means that this truck has 35-inch tall tires that have a decent amount of sidewall. If this had any larger sized wheels compared to what this has, then the sidewall would just be atrocious and it wouldn't really be a true off-roader, similar to like the new Land Rover Defender and the Mercedes G-Wagon. They have massive wheels and no sidewall, and so they're, you know, off-road capable technically, but they don't have off-road ready tires, and the wheel setup is just not preferable for off-roading. Now, what this means is that this truck doesn't have really big rotors. You guys can see here for the front rotors, it's kind of hard to see through the wheel. They pretty much fill up the whole wheel, but these are actually the same exact rotors you get on every other Ram 1500. They did not upgrade these brakes at all for the Ram TRX. And you guys can see the back rotors pretty much fill up the entire wheel as wheel. Haha, see what I did there? And so, yeah, it's definitely a big issue, but this is just kind of like an issue that plagues off-roaders. You guys know I have a couple other off-roaders, like this Jeep Wrangler Rubicon 392. You guys can see 17-inch wheels. And again, same thing. Notice how they are just packing in those rotors. They're going as big as they possibly can, front and rear, so that they can get some level of stopping power. And same thing here with the Raptor. 17-inch wheels again. And look how big the front rotors are. Like you couldn't go any bigger than what these have. And then same thing here with the rear rotors. Most vehicles will typically have rotors in the rear that are quite a bit smaller than the front, but it seems like with these off-roaders, they just have them just as big in the back as they have in the front because frankly, they have to, because they can't get enough stopping power out of those front rotors. Now, you guys are probably wondering why this is an issue, and the reason why this is an issue is because of this thing right here under the hood. It's actually not because of the weight of this truck. Yes, this truck does weigh quite a bit. It's like a 7,000 pound truck, but that is not the issue. It's not the weight. It's the engine and the fact that this truck gets up to speed at an insane rate. And similar to the new Tesla Model S Plaid, it feels like it doesn't have enough brakes because it gets up to speed so fast. If you guys have ever driven this, or if you've driven one of the new Tesla Plaids, whether it's the Model X or the Model S, then you probably feel like you don't have enough braking power, when in reality, the brakes are big enough to stop a vehicle of that size. It's just that they're not big enough to stop a vehicle of that size at that speed, right? And so the TRX definitely suffers from that. And it feels a lot worse compared to my other two vehicles, the Jeep Wrangler Rubicon 392, well, we can't see the Raptor anymore, but also the Raptor, and that's just, frankly, because this accelerates so much quicker than both of those vehicles, and it is, frankly, heavier than both those vehicles. But the biggest thing is the fact that this accelerates so quickly. So what is a fix for this? Is there anything that Ram could have done? So is there anything that Ram could have done with this whole brake situation? Well, Potentially. So obviously everyone knows at this point that Dodge, Ram, Jeep, and Chrysler are basically, right, the same automaker. They're all under the Stellantis umbrella. And there are some other vehicles that have this powertrain under the hood. You've got the Dodge Challenger and Charger Hellcat. You have the Jeep Grand Cherokee Trackhawk as well that also had the Hellcat powertrain. And there's something that all those vehicles have in common, and that is Brembo brakes. But there's also something else that all those vehicles had in common, and that is larger sized wheels, which at the beginning of this video, we just talked about how that wouldn't work. But still, I want to talk about the Brembo brakes. The reason that all those vehicles have Brembo brakes is because, again, insane acceleration, so they also need insane stopping power as well. And so what this means is that Stellantis has a really good relationship with Brembo when it comes to Hellcats, because they obviously put Brembos on every single Hellcat they make except for the Ram TRX. And the thing is, Brembo is like the biggest brake company on the planet, and so I'm sure that the engineers at Brembo could have figured out a fix for the Ram TRX in terms of a brake kit that would fit with an 18-inch wheel or potentially even a 17-inch wheel, but still have more stopping power than what the Ram TRX has stock. And so I'm kind of like scratching my head as to why Ram chose to not go that route. It's kind of one of those things that I'm sure, you know, obviously I don't know what happens behind the scenes, but I'm sure that it was a situation where Ram was probably offered something and they turned it down, because again, every other Hellcat has Brembo brakes, and so like I said, you think they would have done something. And to really hit home on this particular point, Brembo has recently announced a new brake system, and I actually got to test it out earlier this week, which, by the way, the video on that system got like no views. YouTube system decided not to push it at all, which I'm shocked by, because whenever I talk about this new brake system to people in person, they're like, wait, what? This is the craziest technology I've ever heard of. And again, literally nobody is talking about it. So what I want to talk about in today's video is how this brake system could transform the Ram TRX, and I'm shocked that Ram didn't use Brembo for this, because they use Brembo for every other Hellcat. And after I explain this brake system, you guys are going to understand why it would actually be able to slow down the Ram TRX despite the fact that it's super heavy and has over 700 horsepower. So this new brake system is an independent braking system. So what that means is you have independent braking on each individual wheel. Current braking systems either have it so the front wheels are connected, and the back wheels are connected, or the wheels are connected side to side, but it's more common with like front to front and back to back, if that makes sense. That's why we have ABS systems, right? So that stuff doesn't lock up if conditions are different from one wheel to the other, right? Complicated system to make it so that brakes work, and it's not very efficient. What it basically means is that with a current brake system, what you have to have is the rotor and the pad are constantly having to be in contact, so you get quite a bit of drag, and then once you press down the brake pedal, the response time is not instantaneous. Even though they're connected, it's not instantaneous. Whereas this new independent brake system that Brembo is going to have out in some vehicles in the next few years has no connection whatsoever between the pad and the rotor. So that means that you have zero drag, which is great, especially if you want to do like high-speed off-roading. Less drag is going to be better, but the system is instantaneous when you press the brake pedal to the connection point. And again, when I tested out the Tesla Model 3 that had the system, you could feel the difference. Like, it's instant with the response time, which would be perfect for something like the Ram TRX that's as heavy as it is, especially when you're doing some like off-road Baja driving. So again, you get like instant brake response, no drag, and since it's an independent system, you can imagine this truck being an off-roader would mean that you'd have even more control, and you wouldn't get the crazy swaying back and forth motion you get with this truck right now. Like, if any of you have ever like slammed on your brakes with your TRX, whether on-road or off-road, and any other pickup truck, frankly, you've probably noticed that the back end will kind of sway all over the place because the ABS system kicks in, and it's just, right, it's not a stable situation. Whereas this brake system makes every vehicle stop in a straight line, which is just crazy. So basically, between the instant response from when you press the brake pedal to the fact that you wouldn't get that big swaying motion in the back end would just give you so much more control with the TRX. And again, it would make it feel so much better. And I think that if something like this had that brake system on it, then it would literally be perfect, because everything else about the Ram TRX I absolutely love. I love the sound of the truck. I love the acceleration of the truck. I love the interior on this truck. I guess I don't exactly love the fuel economy, but you know, you gotta pay to play when you drive around a supercharged V8 with 700 horsepower. But seriously, that is the only thing that really holds back the TRX, frankly, is just the fact that it is massively under braked. And again, like I said, it's not exactly like a super simple, easy fix. It's not as simple as just putting on bigger rotors, because again, this is an off-roader, so you only have so much space that you can take up with the rotors, because again, you can't do massive wheels. And so, yeah, I guess it's just sad that Ram decided not to work with Brembo, and now that Brembo has that new technology, I'm wondering if with the new 1500s, if they'll have that system, and maybe there'll be like a new version of the TRX in the future that'll have that system. And I think that it's really the future for off-roaders. Now that's gonna sum things up for today's video. I know that was slightly long-winded, but it's something that I've talked about in the past, and after kind of like digging into things from a research perspective and kind of like coming to the realization that, like I said, Stellantis has worked with Brembo on every single Hellcat except for the TRX. I had to talk about it, because I'm like, man, this is something that should be a thing but isn't a thing. So yeah, maybe Ram will implement some sort of Brembo system in the future, right? Because they'll do some sort of like refresh or redesign on the TRX. Time will tell, but yeah, with that being said, I'll see all of you in the next video. Well, the lighting's horrible, so you guys probably can't see this, but during one of those clips, I totally got stung by a wasp and kept filming. So you guys owe me like a subscribe or something like that, since I like kept my composure, even though I just got stung. I don't know.